Okay, this would be a DIY weed eater repair. So I've had my weed eater for about 13 years. It's been running great, except for now it's dying when it's idling and barely keeping up. So anytime I give it gas, it wants to die. So I figured, well, I'm going to go green here and buy a battery-powered weed eater. Then I looked at the price, or about $200 to $300, and the voices inside my head were saying, you got to fix this, you got to fix this before you buy something new. So I caved into the voices, and now you got a video to watch. So I'm going to attempt to repair this Bilt weed eater. I looked online. I think you have a carburetor problem. The rebuild kits aren't that widespread, and a new carburetor is about $10. So I said, screw it, let's get a new carb and see what happens. Okay, to diagnose a problem, you have to have three things in a combustion engine. You have to have fuel, you have to have air, and you have to have spark. If you don't have any one of those three, you don't have anything. Okay, here's what I'm dealing with. So I'll put it in the priming condition where I'll initially start up the weed eater, pump it about 10 times in the priming bulb in the back, put it on position 1, and then try to start it. So it seems to start fairly easily most times, but anytime I want to actually start using it, and that's in the third position on that blue lever, it wants to die on me. So the minute I move it over even into the 2 position, as the instructions say, it starts stalling. So I think it's getting too much air and not enough fuel. So definitely there, I think there's a problem with the fuel-air mixture. And I know that because I'm getting gas into the carburetor, and I'm also getting air. I checked the air filter. So here I'm moving it barely into the 2 position. It doesn't want to start. So sometimes, like I said, it starts here, it'll start, and it'll run. But immediately when I give it gas, it'll want to die. So there's definitely a carburetor issue here, and I can get it to stall if I give it too much gas and throttle it up. So I've definitely, in my mind, have a carburetor issue, and so I'm going to try and fix that. And as you can see here, I move it into 2, and it'll stall. I think it's a good weeder. It's been running for 13, almost 14 years now, but everything has its day. And before I throw this thing away, I want to make sure I can fix it. So I'm going to try that. Okay, so I emptied the tank. I know I've got a carburetor fuel air problem, and I'm pulling off the filter. Usually that's pretty dirty. That'll cause the engine to have problems working. This is the air inlet. So obviously when I start opening that air inlet up, it dies. So I think it's getting too much air. It's not getting enough gas. So the lines all look good. Here's again the inlet to the carburetor for the air. You want to make sure when you're looking and replacing these lines that they go in the right direction with respect to the fuel filter. So this line here is for the actual fuel going in the carburetor, and the other one is for, I guess it's the exit from the carburetor, the excess fuel. Maybe it pressurizes the tank. Okay, this is the line to the fuel filter, and this is the one that goes and pressurizes or lets actual gas into the tank. I'm not sure which one it is, but I'm going to remove both of the lines. So this is the one that goes back into the tank, and be very careful, make sure you don't mess them up. So if you do, then they won't start. So here again, the fuel lines are fine. They're a little bit old, but there's obviously gas in them, so we know I'm getting gas. So I'm going to take both of these lines out and replace them with new lines that come in the package. Okay, so now I'm going to take the carburetor out. It only requires 2 screws. You maybe need 1 or 2 screwdrivers for this job. That's about it. And once you take the screws out and take that little doohickey there, the positive crankcase ventilator breather valve, I think it is, you can pull off the whole assembly. That's it. It's very, very simple. So there's the carburetor. It's about $10. Amazon. I'll put a description and a link below. And all you gotta do is take it off and remove this little O-ring here. If it's easily removed, the O-ring's probably bad, which is also affecting the fuel-air mixture. So I always like to make sure that the part that I'm buying and the part that I have are identical. So I like to butt them up against each other. But here's the part I bought off of Amazon. Again, $10. Comes with the fuel tubing and the 2 primer, I call them nipples, to prime the system. They're almost identical with the exception of this little mechanism that mounts the throttle cable, but other than that, it'll work fine. Okay, here's the carburetor again. The O-ring is solid and fixed, so there's going to be no air leakage through there. So like I said, I like to take the parts and inspect them before I put them in to make sure I don't put it in and get the wrong one. So the left carburetor is the new one, the right one is the old one, and you can see there's that additional little slotted screw that holds the throttle cable. So I also like to make sure that my fuel filter inside the tank is clean and free from obstruction. There's usually a little pinhole there, and then the gas comes through that orifice into the tube. I like to clean both of them out to make sure that there's no obstruction to the fuel. So you can usually take a piece of small diameter wire bristle from a barbecue grill brush and just kind of run it through there and make sure you clean that out and hit that hole there too. So once that's done, then I can put the tubing into the gas tank. This is the hardest part. You gotta finagle a little bit, and you can probably use some pliers or a screwdriver. In my case, I kind of guided it through. And once you're done with the fuel tubing, then all you gotta do is push on the fuel filter, pull it back a little bit, make sure it's at the bottom of the tank, and then connect the fuel lines to the carburetor. Okay, now I'm going to drop in the gasket here on the back plate. You want to make sure that little channel there is clean too from any kind of debris and whatnot. So once that's in place, all I have to do is slide on the carburetor assembly with the screws and basically attach this little dog leg on the throttle cable to this little holder dealy thing. I don't know what the official term is, but that's what I call it. So once that's done, you can drop the carburetor onto the gasket there and then put on the air filter assembly with the two screws, and that's pretty much the brunt of the project. And all you gotta do is make sure the O-ring's on and tight, and measure the fuel lines and cut them and put them on. So that's pretty much it. It's not rocket science. You don't have to be a mechanic to do this. Basically follow the video. Okay, here all you're doing is you're cutting the fuel lines. Use the old ones and measure the length and you're good to go. No complexity here. I used a razor blade to cut this. Makes it easy. Probably use a pair of side cutters. So once this is done, you're pretty much home free. Again, make sure you plug the right tube into the right orifice on the carburetor. So the furthest one down, the biggest one, I'll zoom in here, that is sucking the fuel out of the tank. So you got to make sure that's what the white filter is attached to, that line. So once you push that on, then all you got to do is obviously the process of elimination, connect the other one, and you're ready to rumble. So with that job now done here, all I got to do is put the air filter back onto the carburetor and connect the breather, positive crankcase ventilation tubey thing, and this should start in theory. So there's the cover, and let's give it a shot. So I'm going to turn it over here, prime it. I got in position 1 as the instructions always say to do, and see if it'll fire up. Alright, so it's started. I'll move it back over in the run position. Before this died here at 2, and now it'll die at 3, as it did. And here it runs perfectly. So the job is successful. I saved, I don't know, $290 by buying a $10 carburetor. Hopefully this will last me some more time and save somebody some money. Alright, there you have it. About an hour's worth of time and a $10 part saved me from buying about a $200 or $300 weed eater. So hopefully this helps somebody, and please like and subscribe.